had to go and take it out and flush it out. Now she's on antibiotics intravenously for 6 weeks.
Oh,
And then they gotta try it all over again,
yeah.
so. Well, and the worst part, okay, so I was visiting her in the hospital on last Thursday.
That probably is her worst part.
I was driving home from there, and my mom calls, and my dad was not doing well, so my dad called to say goodbye, and he was gonna go into hospice. So, and I can't do nothing about it because he's in Texas right now. So, and I can't leave Andrea at home.
Yeah,
So then,
kind of in a rock and a hard place there.
then we got her home, and now I guess he quit all the meds down there, and he just was giving up. And all of a sudden, he was
feeling
able to
better.
walk and talk, and so he thinks, he's still probably gonna die within the next year, but.
How old
he's
is he?
82,
Yeah, it's
and he
it's
gets
getting up there.
infections a lot and
Okay.
stuff, so.
Yeah.
But they're gonna bring him back here at least. Well, then the other day, 2 days ago, we're sitting there, my son says, hey, I'm gonna go for a ride with my friends on the motorcycles. I'm like, that's not a good idea, the roads aren't
Yeah.
good yet.
No.
And so they go.
And he's
for-
how old?
And he's 26. Old enough to know better.
Yeah, but not old enough to stay home.
Yeah.
So they all go for this ride for like 4 hours, and all of a sudden I hear him pull up. And all of his buddies would pull up, and he puts his bike in the garage, and comes in the house. Well, then his two buddies left our house to go to their house in White Bear, and the one hit a deer.
On the way to White Bear?
On the way to White Bear. They were going down 95.
Oh,
And he hit the deer. He said he was doing about 110, 120. And
120?
yeah, with the bike.
they driving crotch rockets?
Well, he was driving a modified Harley, but the other kid was on a crotch rocket. But yeah, blew his shoulder blade apart. He
Look,
had
he's alive. He's doing 120 and hit something.
tore his spleen, and he's got like internal bleeding and a couple broken bones. So he's in the Regions. So my wife had to go to Regions today to get her PICC line cleaned or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went down there and I went up and seen him, and he had 8 surgeries already, and he just looks, he just looks terrible.
Well,
But
not you, Court.
I mean, I wouldn't judge you. I wouldn't blame you.
that's why, everybody gives me grief for getting rid of my regular motorcycles, but I'm glad I did.
I spent 4 years as an orderly, and
Oh,
I couldn't own a motorcycle. After you see those guys come in.
yeah.
Now, granted, it's the part of the gene pool that I see.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah. You see
99 out of 100 or
Right.
990 out of 1,000 that
Right.
are fine,
Yeah.
but
Right.
they were always in really, really, really rough shape.
Yeah.
And at best, they were going to some rehab, both for mental and physical,
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Not for me.
So my buddy owns a skydiving business out of Wisconsin. And
Another thing I ain't gonna do.
I was laughing because he always gives me grief because when I go, I wait till beyond the last second to pull the chute. And he had a guy that tried to pull the chute at 1,000 feet and it didn't open, so he pulled the reserve. And he ended up with both broken legs, a broken arm, and 4 ribs that were broken when he landed. And he says, that's why I tell everybody, pull at 3,000 feet.
When I got life insurance years ago when the kids were little, and one of the things banned was skydiving.
Yeah, they have that on there. Ask you.
And I couldn't commit suicide for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
After that, I was free and clear.
Yeah.
I got some really weird rules here.
Yeah, when I was selling, I used to sell life insurance, and some of the rules, you couldn't, if you were killed during car racing, it wasn't covered, and stuff like that.
I expect
A quick
Maybe.
meeting?
maybe, well, it should be a quick meeting.
Yeah.
We got no agenda item, except get whipped on the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, but Susan will have a lot to go on the comprehensive plan.
It's just an intro night,
Yeah.
you know? We don't even have an idea. They're just saying, well, here's what we did well, here's what we did poorly.
That's why for my, I've never been involved in the comprehensive plan. So I finally sat down since I was at home doing nothing and read the whole 2040 comprehensive plan. So I kind of could get an idea of what it was and,
I wouldn't say that I've read it, but I've scanned it pretty heavily.
well, when you have nothing to do other than sit next to Andrea in bed, you might as well read it.
All right?
But it wasn't, it's interesting how they do that, because we do strategic planning at our work too. So we have all these goals and milestones to meet and,
Oh, yeah, I was given a lot of them. They'd say, well, what do you think? I don't know what you guys are smoking, but this ain't gonna happen. Well, this is what we need. That's different.
Yeah.
Well, I laughed at our work. They said they wanted to increase revenue by 5%. And in the last year, we increased revenue by 74%.
That's a good year.
Yeah, because we came up with new products, so.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because you come up with one new product, which happened to be a valve for liquid cooling. And then all of a sudden, it catches on with like Meta and Google bought a bunch of them. Well, then all of a sudden they're like, can you make that same thing but smaller? Okay, now you got another new product.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'll tell them, yeah, we'll make it, but we're keeping the rights to it so
Oh,
we can
yeah.
sell it to more people.
Oh, yeah.
Which they're probably fine with, because it's probably a nickel and dime item to them, and
Yeah,
they don't care. They just want it,
Exactly.
they need it, so.
I just
Just
laugh
get
at
it
those
done for 'em.
data centers, the coupler that couples them to the cooling lines. We make that, and it's $420 per one, and the one data center was 1,700 of them.
That's a good, yeah.
Then you probably need a supply cabinet with a few.
Oh yeah, spares.
I was trying to tell Abby about the story of Don Quixote because there's a real life version of it upstairs. Guys, in 2 weeks, let's make this a quick night because 2
It ain't
weeks
gonna
we're
be
gonna
fun.
pay. We're gonna be paying
It
for
ain't gonna
that
be
public
fun.
hearing.
So
It'll be fine.
in 2 weeks, take the day off. You're saying?
It might be the day that.
You have
Have a
had
forum?
more difficult public hearings than the one that is coming.
Yep. Don't mean I have to enjoy them.
We had it at the auditorium at the high school.
That one was ugly. But, that was a disaster.
Didn't you do one there?
Oh, yeah, we did it at the junior high
Yeah.
for the Duffy development on 11th where the hospital is. They wanted to put in 32 homes. That wasn't the issue. There were like 6 or 7 homes for, I believe, recovering, women recovering,
Like halfway houses.
like, yeah, kind of a halfway apartment or a halfway townhouse.
That's not what Duffy was.
For though, that's what the whole stink was, though, over the 6 or 7 places over there that were going to be, for a halfway house.
Did you see her new picture? Who's this guy?
No.
Got
She
it.
had emergency brain surgery last Sunday.
Well,
We're sitting on
I
folding
saw
tables,
that.
not on a stage, so you can't tell who's
Pretty
talking.
good. She's in
One
good
of the
spirits.
planning commission
She's
members who
bummed
was
she has
in
to
the
wear a helmet,
neighborhood,
but
he's up there
they
with
took
a
the
10-point thing
plate
of
they just
reason
put in
why
in
you should
December, they
deny
took
this,
that
and I'm
out.
like, first off, shut
That's
up,
the
that's not
infection
your,
out.
you know, I'm just way on the
And
end.
then now she's got.
And then they
recovered
voted it
from
down,
being
and
an
I
IV
voted
antibiotics
yes,
for
and
her.
everybody else voted no.
I did that for 8 weeks.
Because it
Yeah, she's
met
gonna do
all
it
the
for six.
All
requirements.
got changed around.
$1 million
Right.
later, the
I
city
had
learned
two
it met all
different
those
ones.
requirements
One
too.
took 2 hours
They
to
lost the
infuse,
lawsuit.
and one took an hour to infuse.
Well, this is just the injectable, so it's like
Oh.
10, 15 minutes.
Sweet. I mean, it was like,
Where's
okay,
the
I'm
other
here,
end
I'm
of
here,
it?
I'm
Here
here,
comes
I'm
Andy.
bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. Yeah.
But when we.
Were you upstairs too?
Andy's gonna be a couple minutes late.
My
He'll
dad
be
called to say
Holy
goodbye,
man, that's loud.
because he
Was?
said he was
Andy will be a
dying
couple
and
minutes
going to
late, but he's
hospice
coming.
down in
Okay.
Texas. So, once he quit all the meds, all of a sudden he's talking and walking. So, they say he's still got an infection that's gonna kill him. but at least maybe he can get rid. So, and then my son's friend the other day, after they dropped my son off, hit a deer on his motorcycle at over 100 miles an hour. And it's down in regions, they put his shoulder back together and his spleen.
Well,
And
it's
now
all
he's got
right,
a-
but this
still
is the
like
perfect night to
broken
fly, and
bones.
here I am.
They had to fly.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, you're.
I had a friend who died
So-
after getting.
And Corey's gotta leave a party every Wednesday when he comes to this, and I'm sure they're drinking and carousing. And don't you have a work event usually on Wednesdays?
Oh, yeah, we're about to get that changed.
I was gonna say, well, and
I had to leave it, they gave us food and everything.
They
I was like,
got
oh,
the
sorry.
crash tickets and
Gotta go do
I have no
government
problem
things.
doing 150, 120.
Sure, go ahead.
Faster the better.
I don't think they're ready yet.
oh, are you coming back? Good to see you.
Kevin, how you doing?
How you doing?
Hey, you know, we're getting ready to do comp plan. We're talking comp plan tonight.
So Kevin, do you miss us? You want to come back versus council?
I literally said this is
This is what happens when you don't say no.
If I
can get back on.
Well, you
Hey,
know,
put me back on.
that's your choice in
Take my
July.
spot.
Yeah.
You know when the filing period is.
How are we looking over there, staff? Michael, we good? Everybody's good?
Couple.
Got everybody? All right. It's a couple minutes after 6, we'll call the meeting to order. Michael, are you taking the roll?
Yes, I am. Commissioner Aplikowski?
Tentative.
Commissioner Goodwin?
Here.
Commissioner Steeler?
Here.
Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Young?
Here,
Vice Chair Stender? Chair Gerard?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We'll ask if you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, I'll pop that.
Chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented or with changes.
Mr. Chair, I would make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We're at the open forum part of the meeting. If anyone wishes to address the planning commission, we ask you come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving your thoughts. Once we have heard from everyone, we will close the open forum and move on to our next item. So does anyone wish to address at the open forum today? Seeing no one come forth, actually, there's no one in the room besides us, we'll close the open forum and we'll move on to item 6, the consent agenda considerations. There's one item to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 25, 2026. The chair is looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as is.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I have one correction I would like to see in the minutes. The, Tim Stender is the vice chair and not Susan Young, and all of our minutes always come out with Susan still being the vice chair. So if we could get that changed for the next set of minutes, that would be great. Other than that, I don't know why it took me this long to see it, only he's been the
I've
vice.
always been confused, you know.
Yeah, he's been the vice chair for a year, right? So, yeah. So, you know,
I escaped.
so based on any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimous. Move on to our regular agenda item. This would be a public hearing for Hidden Creek South. We tabled it on our 225 Planning Commission, this is for 2 items, and a preliminary plat and a PUD preliminary plan. In your packet, it sounds like the developer is looking for another table.
Yeah.
So who's handling this?
Absolutely. So I think you just mentioned our last meeting. We held the public hearing for Hidden Creek South preliminary PUD and preliminary plat. The developer has requested the commission table the item at tonight's meeting while they work through a few remaining issues. Since then, the applicant has asked the commission specifically not to consider the application this evening, so they continue working through all those things. They have requested, additionally have requested a 60-day extension for their application. So that will now expire June 20th, 2026. So we would like to support a motion to table the consideration of Hidden Creek South preliminary plat and preliminary PUD.
To a TBD date?
To TBD date, sir.
And that fits with all of our legal requirements and extensions and all of that, keeps everyone happy in the city?
Yep.
It does, and the TBD date is pretty specific, because when we table to a specific date, we have to come back, such as tonight. We tabled specifically to tonight, and that is why we just want open motion to table.
We tabled for 2 weeks per the developer, just as a reminder.
Yeah, we did.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I would move to table the public hearing for Hidden Creek South in consideration of the preliminary plat and the PUD preliminary plan until a date to be determined in the future.
I have a motion, and do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimous. Brings us to item 8, which is a discussion, which is always a little bit more freewheeling. I really think that the staff probably pushed the developer out here so that they got the whole time for the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for that introduction, Chair Gerard. I really appreciate that vote of confidence from you. We do. We've got time tonight, and we knew we needed to take some time to talk with the Planning Commission about the upcoming comprehensive plan amendment or update process that the city is going to be engaged in. So included in your packet was a little brief on the 10-year Metropolitan Council's planning cycle. That essentially is the kickoff for then the region's planning processes. These, as a reminder, I've shared with everybody in your onboarding. We plan for 30 years, but we update every 10 years. So by December 31st of 2028, we will need to have our 2050 comprehensive plan completed. And not just completed, but approved by the Met Council. So we have some time to do that, and as staff is working through the kind of scoping of the project itself, so 2-year project, a little over 2-year project of updating that comprehensive plan, helping or going out to try to find consulting help for us to update that plan, which is really common with these documents. Some of the things that we wanted to chat with the Planning Commission were having to do with the 2040 plan, so our existing comprehensive plan. For those that were here, the opportunities, constraints, lessons learned through that process. Included in your packet was a memo from the city's engineering firm, who we do use for consultant planning services, and who did update our existing comp plan. A memo that they provided on just a process recap. We also want to just high level talk through some of those 2040 plan goals and objectives. The idea being what still exists in the plan that you see that we didn't accomplish, or what are some areas where the Planning Commission might not think are as relevant. Again, these are very big public processes that we're going to be going through, but I think it's here hitting the high notes or the low notes to help us as we're scoping out this project. And then also just opportunities the Commission would like to see for early public engagement. This is a very public process. We engage with the community in a variety of different ways throughout the entirety of the plan update. So early engagement, midstream, different opportunities for interaction with the community, and then also when we're considering the final plan document. I don't have a ton beyond that. The hope is all of you took a look at your packets and read the materials in your packet, and we can probably just start with that first topic subject of the 2040 plan update. I know that most of the commission members weren't here, but there was a summary memo included in your packet, and I'm kind of curious, thoughts on how the existing comp plan development process, what the commission thought, or what they read in the packet that they want to at least talk about.
Commissioners?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Susan?
Community engagement is a beast in this community. It absolutely is. And it's really difficult to, one, get citizens thinking about the community of the future when they're sweating out things that they hate about the community today, or things that they love about the community today. Community engagement is expensive. I'm thinking that one of the things that we did not do is try and focus on some of the groups in the city that would be that would, I don't want to say susceptible, but might have an interest. For instance, yes, we all were at Arts in the Park and handing stuff out, and there was a lot of it we saw in the parking lot on the ground. We have more homeowner associations in the city now than we had before. Putting into the planning process, going to those homeowner associations at their annual meetings at least, or asking them for an additional special meeting so that we could talk about the comprehensive plan, some of the, even to engage them in some of the things like parks, like trails, like transportation, and go out and actively try and grab them to start thinking and talking about that. Figuring out, is there a way that we can start to, cool kids do YouTube or whatever they do? I don't know. I don't do that
I'm
stuff.
not a cool kid.
Online social opportunities for public engagement.
Right. What if we were to start doing some sort of tutorial or talk to some of the kids at the high school about doing a video? We've got huge, smart, talented, innovative kids over there. Doing something to start doing, what is a comprehensive plan, and start to getting that on the city's page and starting to promote that. But we need to think differently and do a much better job of community engagement the next time. So when I was a boss, I said, you don't get to come to me with a problem until you got 2 solutions. I gave you 2. I gave you 2 ideas. But I'm willing to work hard on that piece. I really am.
Yeah, I will say, even before I read our consultant's feedback memo, just how I think there were opportunities for community engagement, but maybe those opportunities were lost or maybe not utilized to their fullest. It's a common thing, I think, through these large planning processes. We'll never reach everyone in the community, but how do you design and tailor engagement opportunities that you are trying to get out and meet people where they are, but also doing it in a different way? It's easy to show up at Arts in the Park, right? That one's kind of an easy check off for us. Part of this process, the EDA has also expressed an interest in being involved in kind of the community visioning, public engagement aspect of this. And so how we not only reach our residents, but also our business owners and those that are visiting our community, because they are also factoring into the future of our current and future of the community. So I think those are really great suggestions, Susan, of, there are a lot of HOAs. We might not be able to get to every HOA meeting, but those online opportunities and engagement with resources we have, such as the school, I think are good suggestions.
We've got a couple of big ones, and maybe if we just made an effort to hit those, or if we had planning commission members who are in or near those communities,
Or if we could get some sort of like a PowerPoint presentation, we could email out or show up, like Susan was saying, if one of us would show up and present the PowerPoint to kind of just hit on the high points.
I think one of the on-demand, if we can video even a presentation at this and take that and pull it out, put it on YouTube so people can watch it on their own time frame. Because most people, they don't have time to unplug from their life and go sit at a meeting for 2 hours that they don't really care about in the first place. But if we can give them the opportunity after the kids are in bed, they can pull it up on their phone. That would be a way to at least present the information, and then you could break it up and do the parts of, well, the Met Council is going to say this and we have no choice, and explain that up front, and otherwise we are the bad guys. But I think there's a way to kind of break that up into small packets that will get to more, at least make available to more people, and then end each one where if you want feedback, here's a way for you to do that, whether it be online or in person. That would be kind of a way to really nail that type of thing.
That's just that interesting, the idea of educational video and then feedback loop. I know that with our current, our Parks and Recreation Commissioner is updating the Parks and Trails plan right now, Parks, Trails, Open Space plan right now. They did use a community survey tool that we have through our website, but definitely we're kind of putting it out in different social ways. And I think got more response than I've maybe seen in some of the other opportunities for engagement. But that idea of here's a small video, or here's a one component, here's a quick feed link to we want your feedback on it is a nice opportunity for us to explore.
I think we've got several community organizations. I know that the Rotary would welcome a couple of presentations. I'm sure that Lions, there's lots of folks there that would, are really community oriented. You've got Masons, you've got a variety of organizations. Even a really brief presentation to the school district, those meetings are heavily watched. Just any way that we can get out, even a 10-minute, this is what we're thinking about doing, please be aware. I really want to do a better job this time around.
Yeah, I think we do too. I mean, I think it's the how do we engage, right, and at what opportunities. It is the most costly component of a plan of this nature, and so this is all really great feedback as we start to think about how we scope this out, how we secure consulting services, and how we do this within a reasonable budget over the next few years is going to be that tricky part, I think. But any other ideas out there on community engagement?
I don't have any ideas for engagement. I think one of the difficulties with the comprehensive plan, it's fairly abstract, and it's out 25 years from now or 22 years from now. We have trouble getting the community involved when someone's coming to the planning commission in 2 weeks. That is going to affect them tomorrow. So just, you say, well, this is going to happen in 2050 or a vision for 2050. They're like, well, I'll probably be pushing daisies, but it's just, I think it's really hard with such an abstract concept to get a lot of buy-in.
And I think it's really challenging, especially with that abstract concept to keep it from not grinding the axes of the problems today and getting wrapped around the axle with my trash didn't get picked up last week, what the heck, and then that becomes a 30-minute tangent. How do you focus it? But I wanted to go back to kind of a mixture of what Commissioner Young and Commissioner Aplikowski said is, imagine a jar, public engagement's a jar, and you fill it with giant rocks. Jar looks full, those giant rocks being these big organizations. So let's focus on what the big organizations are now, and then we can whittle it down to the minute outreach, the sand that'll fill in the gaps like a YouTube video may be to look at that. And so one thing I wanted to mention with the Rotary is, you mentioned the high school, potentially, there's an Interact program there?
Our high school Interact is a little slow right now, but we're working on a couple of the other schools, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that becomes like a good place to, one, maybe get some soldiers to kind of like help kind of like facilitate some of these things for some of those community service hours that we could sign off on. But it's also getting that kind of input from that generation because I think YouTube's cool, but they're all talking about things that I don't even know exist anymore. Like I don't do the TikTok, at least I know what that is. But it's like being able to understand, hey, what are the languages being used now to be able to do this broad outreach and help influence feedback. So Rotary, Lions, Masons, the school district. Are there any other civic organizations that will allow us to reach out to a large group with a regularly planned meeting, not like a special meeting coming in, but be able to go there? And I think you mentioned HOA annual meetings, but that's really would be a great opportunity to put the big rocks in.
You just met with one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have put them
And
down.
they've got, 50% of the lake, 450 members, I think they have. And their meeting will come in, I'm looking over at Jeff, is that April where they do their annual usually?
The Lake Association?
Yeah, at the high school where they talk about the AI.
The president was upstairs in the meeting up there tonight.
We can work with them.
But
I
they got
mean,
an annual meeting that's well-attended, 300
Yeah.
plus people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear Lake has a similar.
Yeah.
We don't have as many people, but it's well attended.
Actually, you have a higher participation in
Yeah, we've
Forest.
got over 80%, I want to say
Yeah.
it's 90% participation now, but something like that.
Yeah, we're very envious.
And when I was on the council, I used to use Clear Lake as an example of a lake that should have city support as opposed to a lake that has very little lake association support. You guys at Clear Lake do a great job.
I can't take any credit for that.
You have to see.
One suggestion I just want to mention, Councilmember Larson just mentioned, just like the Chamber's Business Expo in the spring next year, the following year, opportunities for engagement as well. Those are those kind of out-of-the-box ideas that we do want to figure out how we engage with the public.
Because you'll have
Also,
both of them,
too-
right? You'll have the expo up in Maranatha, and then you got the senior expo
Right.
that comes. That's coming up too, over at the Y.
Yeah.
It's towards seniors, but they vote too.
And they're passionate about the community, absolutely passionate about the community.
Right.
The Y Forever Yet Well group, there's a ton of folks in that. And you've got the senior center. And they've, not only do the folks at the senior center, they live here, but a lot of their kids live here. Forest Lake is one of those communities where a relatively high percentage of folks that grew up here come back here.
Great. These are all awesome kind of ideas, I think, for those opportunities that, for public engagement that we can start exploring. You know, I can't promise we're going to hit every civic group. I can't, I don't know what that plan looks like right now, but these are, I think, all really good factors for us to consider as we develop those public engagement strategies. Did folks take a look at the memo produced by Bolton Mink in 2025? Was there anything standing out in that document in relationship to the last comp plan update, and any lessons learned for the few people that were a part of this process the last go around?
One of the things that came up in that fairly frequently was the massive last-minute changes, on the southern boundary of the city and all the MXR stuff that was put in at the last minute. Unfortunately, the potential for that is coming up again, because what happened was a change in the council. A change in the council majority, and that new council and that new mayor did a 180 on significant pieces of the comp plan that the previous mayor and council had put together.
So even though it is an election year, we do have our council, our mayor and 2 councilors up. Those, if they change, those people would be seated throughout the remainder of the portion through 27 and 28.
Right, but what happened last time was that they needed to, because of the timeline, the new mayor and council were seated before the final document was given to the Met Council. And the final document was voted on, and they made significant changes, which made the city and the consultants do a lot of rework. It would be really nice if we could keep to the timeline so that that the mayor and council were very involved and had the good support so that it could be completed. But that, and I saw it over and over again, and I remember it, and it was very painful to me, but, because we'd done a lot of work that was 180'd.
Yeah, that is something that I've heard from the minute I came in, of the changes that occurred with the comp plan. This is the document I walked into, and
Understand
the
that.
hope that the document that we create in the future is one that everybody in this room, whether it's you, any other appointed body, or the council and the community, all support the day it's adopted and into the future, so.
Andy?
I think just one thing that I think will really help the crafting of this is to find out what the guardrails and the hard mandates from the Met Council are. Because I know, you know where I stand on this. And I think if we have a realistic expectation, and if it is something that is going to be so painful, it's a very good way for us to rile up our voters and our landowners if what they're going to make us do is going to hurt our city.
Sure, so included in your packet was the system statement. I think I attached that.
When did we get that, please? I don't mean to interrupt, but when did we get that?
The system statement, we got the system statement in,
I want to say it was October, November.
yeah, October. So the system statement, the city council has appealed the system statement. We have a hearing scheduled with, I thought I had let the commission know this, and I apologize that I hadn't. The city council has appealed the system statement on 3 factors. The first is our land use designation. So our land use designation has changed because they eliminated our land use, or our community classification, excuse me. Our community classification's minimum density requirement citywide is 3.5 units per acre. So it will go up in this next round from the 3 to 6 to 3.5 to 7, or 8. I don't remember exactly what that top threshold is, if it was 6. But that's a citywide density on all the future development areas. And I think that that's going to be a big part of the ongoing conversation that our community is going to have, is how to achieve those requirements. But the city council has indicated objection to that. They have indicated objection to the population and household forecasts, because we do believe that they are low for a variety of reasons. And then also the allocation of affordable housing. With those, the Met Council staff has already rejected a counter we made on our projections. So we are going to move forward with an appeal, or this appeal hearing to the Land Use Advisory Committee that's scheduled for next month. as part of that hearing, one of the things that we've objected with that 3.5 units per acre is how they calculate density and the exemptions that we allow the city to take out of the developable land area. Since the city and multiple other cities have made these objections, the Met Council has come out with Met Council staff have come out with new 2026, so applicable right now, density, how would you say that? Density developable land exemptions, and are now letting us net out stormwater ponds into our developable land area. So if you have 100 acres, and you can take out wetlands and steep slopes and wetland buffers, all those natural features that are all protected, and let's say we're down to 50 acres, but we need 10 acres of that for a storm pond, they're gonna let us net out that storm pond now. You're gonna start to see in the developments that come before you, how that calculates out. And you're gonna start to see that in a lot of those future developments that'll end up coming before you, that they're easier to achieve what is right now minimum baseline of 3 units per acre, but then also that future 3.5 units per acre. Yes, Susan?
Okay, so it says under community designation that we are both
Split.
diversified rural and suburban edge.
Split, correct.
And so, why then is it citywide?
I'll rephrase that. It is citywide in the suburban classification in the
Suburban edge.
in the urban service area.
No, because it says that urbanized levels of residential development are discouraged in diversified rural, and they do not expect that kind of that kind of density in the suburban edge.
I don't know exactly what you're looking at, but the urban density requirement of the 3.5 units per acre, I believe, is not citywide. I believe it's just an urban.
I am on page of the introduction, the 2025 system statement on the introduction, page 4.
It has climate policy on the top of it.
Right. And then it says that the suburban edge communities should be guided for low to medium residential densities, along with some areas guided for industrial and commercial uses. And I don't consider low to medium that 3 point whatever,
Yep.
but yeah. I'm really glad that the council is talking about the AMI, because I looked at those numbers for housing, the 600 dwelling units, and looked up what our median household income is right now. It is $92,944. If you had a 10% down and you were making $92,944 a year, you could qualify for about a $300,000 to $370,000 house. Nothing that we have seen in front of the Planning Commission recently, the developers are telling us, are in that price range. So we really are not developing housing at the AMI, much less at 30% of AMI, which would qualify for a $75,000 to $100,000 house.
I have a question along that line. I've heard you make this before, and I've never owned a new home. And I've owned different homes over the years, but they've always been, I don't know, 10 years old or more. And normally, in where I grew up, when new housing developments were developed, they were bigger, larger houses. Maybe the lots got a little bit smaller, but they're bigger homes. And people would move up into those homes, and then the homes that those people would move out of would come on the market at the lower rate. So, I mean, you seem to make the contention that we should be getting developers to build brand-new homes for the lowest end of the economic spectrum in our city. That's what I took out of your discussion.
That's not what I want. What I'm
Okay.
saying is, if we are to do what the Mount Council says that we have to do,
Yeah.
we got to figure out how we're going to get 600 homes. Not all of them at the 30% AMI, but quite frankly, we're not even building homes right now that folks can purchase at 150% AMI. So for the Met Council to say that we need to make these numbers, I mean, I like a good fantasy story. I grew up on, Andre Norton and Marion Zimmer Bradley. Great fantasy stories, but I don't see how Forest Lake could ever do this. And if, as you've told us before, that if we don't meet the Met Council requirements on a variety of things, there are penalties involved, we would be in a no-win situation.
That is correct. So I want to just at least acknowledge Commissioner Aplikowski's first statement in the understanding the requirements of the Met Council. The system statement is kind of that guidebook, and it's not just about housing and land use, which there's a lot, and I know that that's probably some of the most, impactful, I think, to the community in a lot of ways. That's the thing we see right now, because we're a growing community and we're developing a lot of homes on littler lots, and that's maybe not quite the character we always envisioned for Forest Lake. But there's lots of other things in that system statement on transportation, on climate, on all these other different sections. And so that is kind of our playbook of what we need to incorporate into our document. It does go so far for some of those requirements to give us prescriptions for how to achieve them. So Susan's bringing up the affordable housing allocation, and that is directly tied to our growth, our numbers, right? So our growth projections. It's a formula. It's like plug in this number, plug in their delineator. What would you call that? Their little formula, and then out spits how many units you need in each of those AMI categories. What the Met Council goes so far as to say is, in order to achieve those, would you say it was 300 units, 600 units, you need to guide X amount of land area at this density, X amount of land area at this density. And so it's a numbers game that we'll end up having to play as we talk through these land use opportunities and constraints in that next round of future land use planning.
And to your point about existing homes that are for sale, I'm a newspaper reader. I get the Pioneer Press every Sunday. And every Sunday, they list the homes that have been sold, or the properties that have been sold in Forest Lake. And very seldom do you see anything below 270, even on older existing properties. So even we couldn't even make an argument that some of our older homes in the city would be able to be considered affordable under their
guidelines.
At or below 30, 31 to 50, 51 to 60.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, I know 100%, I think they can be rental. One of the factors just is we are a growing community, and as you develop, it inflates your valuations I saw this in another Washington County community that coincidentally our assistant community development director now lives in because he could not afford to find a place in Forest Lake, which is ironic in some ways because this other Washington County community had historically been known for much higher land valuations, but they're now almost completely developed out. So I think that is part of our cycle that we're in right now, unfortunately.
Now, do apartment buildings count towards these
Yes,
affordable? Okay.
yeah.
So I played that game too, all right? And I said, okay, well, maybe we just do umpty squat. So basically, if you're at 30% AMI, you're making about, call it 2,300 a month. If you were to try and say, okay, even half of your income could be devoted to your rent payment, we still don't have, there are very few, and they're the really, really old apartment buildings that are below 1,900 a month, even for a studio apartment. We're just not there.
So, but I will say, in terms of housing affordability, for housing that gets in the price points of people making 50% or less, at least in this industry, in public service, in development, those are subsidized housing. That is housing that is going to end up being subsidized in some way by the city, county, or state or federal government. And so I think there's different strategies for how to obtain your affordable housing. What I want to reiterate, at least in our affordable housing numbers, is that there is no mandate that we have to put in 600 units. The mandate is we need to guide land sufficient to create the climate for the creation of 600 units.
Which is what, when we created that climate then, when the two common bond apartments were built down by the library, YMCA?
Yeah, yes, but we also created that climate by guiding land for that higher density development.
And I don't read this that way. This is the region's future need for low-income housing is 600 new units of affordable housing of these new in Forest Lake. Of these, the need is for 327 affordable to households earning at or below 30%, 240 available to households, get to that, and 33, 51, 60. It's not create the climate, is the future need for low-income housing is this number of dwelling units.
Yes, that is correct. But it's not a mandate that we have to create those. It is saying that is a need in our community. That is what they're projecting our need is to be. We need to create the climate so that those could potentially be developed. But if at the end of this process we did not reach 600 units, it isn't a penalty situation.
So then 3 dwelling units per acre wouldn't be a penalty situation either.
Well, no, that is different because that is directly tied to their actual capacity for the services that they're trying to manage as well.
The sewer.
Right.
They want us to push more sewage to them in order to make us build more lots.
Okay, but that's not what they say in the sewer section, okay? Yeah, I went down there too. I don't
Let's
have enough
stick
to
to the
do.
density for a second.
Yeah.
So what's your feel for, we're cut our lots in half when we went from 15,000 to 7,500, and we're really struggling to hold 7,500 and the 65 feet width. And I'm sure that I haven't seen the end of those, much to my chagrin, but what's your feel that with what they're netting out now, that we can get closer to that number? Or do we have to look at this again and say, you know what, we're gonna have to cut this down to X?
No, I don't think that we'll have to cut this down to X. It's a great question. We just got their determination of their 2026 implementation changes last week or the end of the week before. So we haven't had a chance to compare that yet to some of our existing developments that are coming in and how they would compare to the 3 to the 3.5. Simply put, the city has too much land guided for low to medium density residential development. That's what's created in this environment. We're going to need to look at where we put in more medium and higher density to help offset that lower density, which overall then balances out, not community-wide, but in your emerging suburban, or emerging suburban or MUSA areas, that balances out to the 3.5 units per acre. So if you have 100 acres of 12 and you have 100 acres of 3, the two of them together then is 8? Quick math, 7.5?
It's not a math quiz today.
So that's going to be a lot of those land use based conversations we're going to have is, if we want larger lots, that's not going to be a problem. It's just you have to offset them somehow else.
I get that, but when the developer's sitting there going, I'm gonna hit this 3 because that's the number I have to hit, and that's why I need these smaller lots, we don't give any pushback, say, overall, we have to hit 3, we're okay, you hit 2.8 or 2.7 in order to meet our lot sizes, so we don't have to do a PUD.
Right, but that's because we guided that specific land area for a minimum of 3.
So we need to change that then?
In the comp plan.
Or, one of the things that we can do is go back to the original 2040 comp plan that didn't have as much MXR. Because that's the MXR that is guided with the higher density.
So this is what I would say is, I don't want to have the conversations right now, because the comp plan we have right now is not getting changed right now. Right? We have the MXR, and we have that whole area guided for MXR, and we're hit the MUSA line. So at this moment, anything that we've really seen, they have some entitlements with that minimum of 3 lots per acre. It's outside of those areas, or when people want to expand the MUSA line, and may need a comp plan amendment, that's when we need to reevaluate, or at the time that we're updating the comp plan. Is this the appropriate density for those specific parcels?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a flavor for, with the pushback the city's currently giving, are we getting where we, and I'll speak for the whole commission, which is probably bad, but where we want to get more to what our vision was of 7,500 square foot lots.
I do think we might be getting closer to get us to that 3 without having to go to these 50-foot, but I haven't done a cross land use
As long as we're
analysis.
starting to get close, I'm done with the density then. Moving on, any other comments on density? Otherwise, we're going to move on to some other topic.
I just have one comment in this discussion, and I know other cities are appealing things to the Met Council on the subject of density. I mean, you and I exchanged an email. I think I was looking at densities in downtown and trying to figure out what their density was and how we could possibly get there with our side yard setbacks and front and back setbacks. Anyway, and then in all this, I drew a straight line from the Capitol to this building here, and it's like 24 miles or something like that. Yet I can go to Hudson, Wisconsin, and it's only 16 miles. And the Met Council doesn't have a say in Hudson, Wisconsin. And yet we've got to compete for developers and development, and so I don't know if that's part of the discussion when we appeal. I mean, we're kind of unique in that aspect. I mean, Delano can't say, Hudson, Wisconsin is whatever.
You, Wyoming.
Yeah. So my point is, there's areas closer to the city that they have absolutely no control over. And yet they're putting these really tight restrictions on us. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. But anyway, you guys are.
Andy?
Yeah, I'll just state it again. I think the Met Council's out of control. I think they're social engineers, and the service statement is a great example of all of the political, social, diversity stuff that we're seeing across the country baked into a document and forcing a city to do this or else. They were designed as a regional planning for trains, lanes, and sewers, and they've gotten out of control. And I encourage the city council to keep fighting. I encourage anyone listening to this to get involved in the governor's race, because there is a chance, if we see a seat change at the top, the Met Council can be dismantled.
I worry about sewer systems after that, because I'm a public works person. Yeah. Right.
The technology in the world has changed where you don't need
Absolutely.
centrally planned people to do this.
Yep.
Computers can figure this out on their own by this point, but it's all of the tails, all this other coloring outside the lines, climate change, come on. I mean, and here, the ramifications are we are forced to put in these tiny lots and build these unaffordable houses, and we're the bad guys. That's where I'm just, please keep up the fight.
One thing I'd like to add real quick, especially as Abby mentioned earlier about the stormwater ponds not being included in net acreage, that really impacts the acceptance of those smaller lots, those smaller size lots. The argument for them really kind of gets watered down after that. So there may be opportunities in the future to be more hold tight on those, the lot sizes that you're all comfortable with, because not including those stormwater ponds into the net will still allow some developers to hit those marks that are required, especially in the MXR1 district, to be able to hit those densities without having to sacrifice width of a lot. So there's good news coming out of the Met. There's good news coming out of the fights that we're having with them. More to come, but we're definitely seeing less, hey, no, it's our way or the highway. So there's a lot of progress there.
What topic do you want to move to?
Well, I think we talked some about public engagement, and we talked about that previous plan development process. So I'm wondering, just high level, we started to kind of go through some of the topics and the plan goals. Seems like we hit some onto land use there. We talked about some of the community's objectives and goals. We didn't maybe talk about, actually don't really go into density. We could talk about local economy, economic competitiveness. Talked a little bit about housing. We're updating our parks and trails plan right now. Transportation, we've talked about recently here. So those things are kind of carried through. More than anything, it's what's an existing plan that sticks out to anybody that you might want to talk about. And I can pull up my packet. Do you know what page those start?
They want us to incorporate stuff about the regional transit system. And their 2050 regional transit plan X's Forest Lake out of any kind of transit opportunities. And transit-oriented development that they talk about you really need to do this thing online because you need to be able to get to their links. I tend to be a paper person, so I've been playing between the paper and diving into their links. But they're pushing a lot of the transit-oriented development, which then goes to the smaller lots, goes to folks being able to walk from their home 10 minutes to a transit corridor. For them to require us to do planning and density using that 10 minutes to a transit opportunity, I'm back to the fantasy reading. And when you go into their transit plan and you follow the link, the goal is for folks to be a 10-minute walk from a transit opportunity.
Ask the city of Ramsey how that worked out.
Well,
No, it's another example of these people don't know what they're doing.
So I guess I need some more clarity on what is expected of the city for our regional transit system pieces. And quite frankly, I'm hoping that the city will start to say, we need out of the transit taxing district tax. The promises were made, the promises were kept for a while, and then the promises were broken. And so the dollars that we are putting in, we are not getting the value of those dollars back, even with the new things that they're trying.
Not just with new, we have had continued service, it's just maybe not as convenient or frequent as what the community has seen. But there are transit services here, and I don't want to, change a narrative that we don't have those and that our money has been just going to other cities completely, right? But those are conversations that our council has been engaged in, so. I will say specifically, so page 23 in the packet talks about system plan considerations affecting your community. This has specifically with the transit plan. It does talk about the regional highway system, regional transit system. Those are those transit market areas that we just need to address, which does talk about those non-regular route services or dollar ride services. And then aviation and bicycle planning. And so those are some of the things that they're looking to see, even though their transportation plan does talk about things like transit-oriented development. There are aspects of our system statement that acknowledges those sorts of things aren't as applicable to us as some of those other areas within the metro area.
On page 23 of our packet, but page 12 of their, under regional transit system, I would challenge us being part of Transit Market Area 3, which they say transit service in this market includes suburban local routes, express and commuter service. We do have non-regular route transit services like Dollar Ride, but we do not have the characteristics of TMA3 that they state that our community has. Under the bicycle planning, the regional, Hardwood Creek is the one that they're basically talking about in terms of the regional bicycle planning, correct?
Correct. There will, I don't know if it probably wouldn't happen, but once the Swedish Immigrant Trails extension comes down 8, I don't know if they'll consider that small extension in Forest Lake that connects to the Hardwood Creek. They'll connect together, whether or not they'll reclassify that. I don't know if that'll be done before this plan is updated, but yes, it is the Hardwood Creek Trail at this time.
If Washington County completes the bicycle access along along County Road 4, that would give us access to Browns Creek and the Gateway Trail.
Yes, outside of our jurisdiction.
Right.
We do continue to also advocate for another county trail along County Road 50 that would lead then as well. So there's more of a northern connecting route as well.
Commissioners, comments on any of these commuting, whether it's bikes, planes, buses? Feel like I'm in a
Trains.
movie.
On their page 18, our page 29, Could you talk to me a little bit about the majority of the city being in what looks like TMA 3, which, you know, I just referred to as, they call that having some bus routes and we don't? It's the little green stippled map thingy?
I can't, Susan, I can't necessarily comment on
Okay.
your, I would say,
I-
disagreement with their
Well-
determination there. I would say that when looking at their TM3, there are some characteristics. It's our commercial urban development area that is a little bit more suburban in nature, that does have access to the, as they're saying, non-regular route, usually dial-a-ride service.
Now, does the dial-a-ride service include like Uber and Lyft and stuff like that?
No, this would be the Metro Transit's
Okay.
services, which are available in the city.
Yep.
Is it reliable? I know I've had people that are closer to the metro who say they call and it never comes. So is the services actually being provided, or are we just on the map that they provide it?
Nope, they are provided. We did get a breakdown, and I believe it was 2024 numbers, and I could get specifics and I can send them out to you. It was out of the 300-ish rides that were requested that prior year, it was something like 17 were unable to be fulfilled.
Okay, I believe the numbers are getting up, so I think that would be something it's a tool for us to push back on.
Yeah, I also, their newer service, the Tuesday, Thursday, 10 to 2, that I've kind of been helping at least convey to different bodies in different ways. That one is not seeing large ridership, but that really comes down to the marketing isn't there. There's been absolutely no public education from the Met Council, from the Met Transit on that one.
And that concerns me, because then they're gonna say, see, we tried it, and Forest Lake just doesn't want that. Well, it's not that we don't want it, it's just that it's only on, you know, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, right?
That is good, yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Between 10 and 2.
2, yeah.
And so it is really restrictive, but folks have got to know about it. I know it would be helpful if it ever were able to expand to those townhouses off of Fenway. I know as that's where several of my Thrive Ride customers are, is in that area, because it's one-level housing, the townhomes and HOA that were geared toward downsizing elders.
And that's Thrive Ride that's door to door, right?
Yes.
This
Correct.
other one is, it's a loop, right?
So there's 4 different public transportation options in the city of Forest Lake. One is Thrive, which is operated by Community Thread, which is a door-to-door, pay as you go, per ride, and that's volunteer-based. So the ride you get is, if there is a driver that's available, that is a call in advance system. They do ask for a few days in advance to see if they can ride pair you. The next one that the city has is the Forest Lake Loop, which is a Wednesday senior low-income circulator. They're not checking IDs at the door, they're not checking incomes at the door, but that is predominantly going to multifamily housing, senior housing, and then bringing them to commercial establishments. It's right now been limited hours in the mornings on Wednesdays, but that also is looking to expand into a larger segment of time on Wednesdays that will also be more of a loop that you might be able to do multiple stops on Wednesdays. Then you have, and forgive me, I'm never going to remember the difference at the moment, but one is a Met Transit program that is a door-to-door service, but this is Transit Link. So these are handicap accessible. Is that Transit Link? Thank you, Susan. These are handicap accessible, small bus type circumstances that you, a few days in advance, you give a call and they'll take you anywhere in the metro area. And then there is our internal Met Transit Thursday 10 to 2, that's brand new system, that is also a door-to-door, but within a limited area within the city, and they're only going within the city. So it's the idea of if you need to get to the library or something like that, the challenge is it's concentrated in the kind of the heart of the old town or the old city. Sorry for even using the word town in this room. It's the heart of the city, and so if you live in, like Susan was just saying, the single-story homes off Fenway, it might not be in that area right now. The one thing they are doing, or at least said they're doing, is they are using the same software that Met Transit's Dial-A-Ride service uses. And so if you lived outside of that area and you did want service, you can request it and you can be denied, but that logs it in their system to see that there's demand outside of the service area. They are willing to explore expanding that service area, but they also did want to see what the ridership was like initially.
So we don't have any like bus stops, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Stop one day, she's, no.
Don't quit
No,
your
we
day
don't.
job.
I was gonna say she's doing all right.
Look at that.
So that's what I always think of transit is, I was raised in Chicago. I went to the corner and,
Within 10-minute walk.
well, oh yeah, but you would know, here's the hours of service and what the bus line was, 43, and so you were good. So that's why I asked, because it does a set loop. So I would think that, maybe you could stand on the corner at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and take a bus, but no.
No.
Thank you.
And I didn't print the page out, but when they look at our developable area, they take out our surface waters, but they don't take out that bog. In our 36 square miles and X number of,
Corey Swamp.
right, and they map it pretty well in here, but we probably need to make sure that and I didn't print that page out.
We definitely, I have noticed since coming in just some of the work that we've done since I've been here, that there's much greater opportunity to redefine the developable land area in Forest Lake. Things that were never probably mapped before, so yes, our surface waters, but wetlands, wetland buffers, steep slopes, those sorts of things should be netted out, and we should be reflecting that in our updated plan, because I think that does really address some of the challenges that Forest Lake has, is that if you look at the plan, is this the actual packet? On page 41 in your packet, you kind of see the just pockmark of the community. But if you took every one of those kind of, what I would say is maybe a light yellow and the kind of maroon color, what page is it?
43.
43, my old eyes are bad. If you took those light yellow and those maroon colors, city staff knows that those are just really kind of guesstimates. They're not delineated, and likely those land areas are much larger than they actually really are.
All you gotta do is pull up, superimpose a road map on there, and you know where all the streets end. Because I live on the north side, and that whole area up there, there's hardly a road that goes through,
Yep.
and there's some wetland that prevents it. Yeah, this one, yeah.
This is all really great. Are there any other comments that anyone has from these kind of early conversations as we're moving forward?
Do we want to talk about on the 2040 comp plan goals and objectives, starting on 51? I guess I'm wondering, the one that intrigues me is as under the objectives, the first one, promoting a variety of transportation options in developing areas, transit, bicycle, pedestrian, and life cycle housing. Are there ways that we can be doing this better, or are there things that we as a planning commission should be thinking about how we can actually promote this? Because that's not something that this community has been geared toward in the past, and I'm not sure how we could do this. So if we're going to keep it as an objective, then I'd like to better understand tactics.
Sure, I will say I wasn't prepared tonight to go
Okay.
line item by
I'm sorry.
line on all objectives, and that's fine. We certainly, that's okay, no. I frankly think, I would hope for our next comp plan that we better tie these to some sort of actual kind of measurable results. Can we check a box? Because I would say we're doing a lot of this stuff, but it's really hard to measure any of what we're doing, exactly as you're saying. So Susan, you bring up the promoting a variety of transportation options. Okay, well, we've talked about transit. You know, we try to get transit here, but when we look at things like bicycle and pedestrian, well, we're putting more trails in, and we're putting sidewalks into every development, which we weren't doing before, right? So we are. But there isn't necessarily anything saying we're going to require A, B, C, and D. And comp plans don't always get so prescriptive, but I think what we can get prescriptive is say, we're gonna encourage development concepts by updating the code to require A, B, C, and D. Right, so we can start to look at how are we actually achieving some of these goals? Because frankly, I do think our existing comp plan is really ethereal. There's a lot of really great ideas in here, but none of them really, there's very few things in here that I think we could actually say, yes, we could have checked this box if we did this, or no, we did not do this. This still is outstanding.
And to that point, I was really tickled by the encourage innovative development concepts being the overarching bullet there, because what does that mean? I want you guys to look at innovative development concepts done. I encouraged it. That's what I think she's saying, is we have to have specifics and measurable things in those objectives, and that's what the comp plan needs to be, is a thing that is black and white. What are we looking for? Not the nebulous language that's presented here, which is crazy. That's what's an objective in a comprehensive plan for a city.
So, let's go back to Bolton and Mink for a second. They did an analysis what went well and not so well in the last comp plan. Did they give any examples of communities where it went well? You know, that this is how they felt it was successful, or to be blunt, are we all muddling through this together?
I mean, yes, frankly, I think, you know, this system, you know, piggybacking on some of the comments that Commissioner Aplikowski made, is this is a really big unfunded mandate of regional planning that everybody has to do at the exact same time. There is only so many resources. There's only so many consultants that can help us. And earlier today, in talking with Bolton and Mink just about some of the communities that they're providing proposals for, they've already probably provided proposals for 20 cities in updating their comp plans. So while they're updating theirs, they're, you know, ours, they're, you know, everybody's. I think that, yes, many communities are just muddling through, but I also think that it really starts with the foundation documents of what are we asking for in our plan? What do we hope to achieve? And those are some of the things that I think this conversation is helping us form, is what are the expectations that we have for public engagement? And how do we want to see us get to a better, maybe check the box system so that we're actually seeing some true progress as we go forward the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years.
One thing real quick that I could share from experience, especially with what's successful comprehensive plan and what isn't. Successful comprehensive plan is one that everybody's bought into. And that's not just nebulous language. That's like, that goes back to that public outreach, the groups listening to them seeing the value of the time that they've given, the words that they've given in the product. But also super important that everybody here understands that we're doing this for us, not to answer some marching orders from somebody else. Staff can deal with anything that comes from outside, but this is an opportunity for this growing city with so much promise in front of them to help develop that in the right way, fix the sins of the past, the things that maybe got shortchanged, the last comprehensive plan, and be able to address it. The whole world changed in 2020, 6 years ago today, actually. With COVID. We're in a crazy world that people are still working from home. Nobody would have thought that you didn't have to pack a lunchbox and go somewhere else 6 years ago when this was being finalized. It's being able to address those things and be able to submit a future for this city that everybody kind of buys into at least a little, and doesn't just throw barbs at and just thinks it's such a bad idea. It's being able to find that compromise and that path forward so that we have our marching orders to be able to implement it, because this city deserves something good. And comprehensive plan is that roadmap that allows us to understand and strategically look at the growth of the city in a way that benefits the future, rather than, balancing out all those needs of what comes out of things. And we talked about, Susan, like the seniors are really involved with this. I think that's a critical component of any public outreach, is making sure those people who want to be involved are involved. But it also is critical that we're involving the people that will inherit this entire plan 25 years from now. And I think the chair made a sad joke about where we were going to be and where he was going to be in 2050. But in the end, that we have to make sure that we're addressing the youth, what will attract the next generation here, what are they looking for to be able to meet those needs, because as demographics change, we want to make sure that we are meeting those needs so that all the promise that exists here is coming out in this comprehensive plan, and we have a roadmap to accomplish that. Not what the Met says and all that stuff, but focusing on the goals for the city, focusing on the density that we need for the city and all the good things we need for the city. That's really how we scope this going forward. And it's less about who's making us do it and why they're making us do it and what they're getting out of it. It's focusing on the goals that support the future of the city. So that's what I would say as we're talking about goals. In the back of your mind, all the things, you guys have all lived here for a long time. Maybe not Corey, because he's 22 years old, but I'm kidding. But I mean, like, you all have perspectives of what you've seen work and not work, and that's what we want to pull on as we talk with you, as we work through with you with this, work through with our civic groups. What are the experiences of the past that we don't want to repeat, and what are the promises that they see that we need to maximize going forward?
One of the things that I'd like to see as we start to build what we would like to see in the future is building back the concept of a community. One of the nice things about that Summerfield development is that they've got common areas where lots of folks from the community see each other at or arrange to meet at one of their gazebos and do a neighborhood cookout. Forest Lake does a pretty good job of our Nights to Unite, but we need some spaces in our new developments that are going back to the medieval commons, all right, where a place where folks come together, because in this community, either you leave in the morning and you come back and you drive in the garage and you close down the garage door and you're in your house for the night, or you don't leave in the morning and you're in your house and you stay in your house all day, and we're not building community. We're not building the helping each other out. We're we're trying to do a few things like Thrive, or like trying to get folks to be part of community theater or things like that. But in terms of opportunities to build community on neighborhood bases, wider walking trails so that you could actually stand on a sidewalk and have more than 2 people on a sidewalk. There's room for 3 or 4 people to walk together and have a conversation. Common areas, linking trails up so that you could have a group that says, okay, we're gonna do a community bike trip. I was in the Netherlands 30 years ago. The whole community came out for these little bike events. And it was grandparents and little kids and the whole community. But it would be very difficult to do something like that in Forest Lake unless you stayed right around your own little tiny neighborhood and sort of blocked off the road. So how do we start putting together a comp plan that helps build community and build people talking to each other and helping each other and being community?
And that's why I believe 5 years here, we need a brewery and 1 to 2 dog parks to start. Hands down. Bring people together. But I think on that, and then going back to the very first conversation about reach and talking to the community, social groups, going to the communities, great that y'all are passionate about it. I'm very passionate about talking to businesses and getting businesses involved. Because not only do you, when you have good businesses who love the city, that's going to attract people to want to come move here and stay here and not live here, go somewhere else and come back to their house and just stay in their house all the time. You're going to get businesses who want to see the growth of the city exceed what we're even planning. They want to be part of it. They want to be encouraged by it. They want to tell their employees about it. They want to be part of every aspect of it. And maybe the short time I've lived here, the 5 years, I don't see that. There's a couple things here and there, a couple people who are, Forest Lake proud, but everybody else is kind of that tend of, I have my own business, I do my own thing, I go to my own house, I live my own life, and there's really nothing that they're encouraged to do within the city. So I think that's a huge opportunity we can take advantage of in trying to reach people and unify and show that the businesses are also invested in this plan and they're here for a long time as well, and they're not going to leave after 5, 6, 7 years when maybe kids are moved away and they're empty nesters or things like that. So anything on that front, I'm 100% for and willing to work on and work with.
I've seen some other areas of the country where businesses want their employees to be happy in that community because you're close to work, and on a really bad day you can actually get to work. And they invest in a local park, or they invest in some community amenities that encourage people to live in that community.
I mean, rabbit trail conversation, but I've thought for years why businesses and cities don't invest in better traffic light coordination so their employees can get to work faster and be happier when they get there because they don't have to run into traffic. But that's like an involvement of a business in a city that loves being there,
Right.
instead of letting somebody else do it.
I can tell you from experience, traffic control systems like that are crazy. There's good times and really bad times. Like when, be careful what you wish for. The robots are going to take over.
Any other final comments for staff this evening regarding the comp plan, or is there any information staff needs from us?
It's not. This is really helpful. I think just this early preliminary feedback of, what are some of the high points? I knew some of these high points, sticking points maybe, let's say. Those opportunities for early engagement that I think that creative dialogue that we're hearing now that we can build in and ask for on the onset. These are things that are going to go, I think, a long way in helping us set that foundation. One of the big things that I really anticipate us focusing on still this year is that community visioning, that setting that foundation for that community building, that I'm hopeful that we're going to be touching multiple generations, residents, businesses, and visitors, right? Because they're all shaping our community right now. And I think they all have a vision for the future of Forest Lake. And what is that collectively? I think it's going to be really important as then we really start deep diving in. How do we get there? Because that's what the meat and the potatoes of our plan is how we get to that vision of the future.
What just popped into my head of a way to explain this to people that don't care or understand is the comp plan
What do
is.
you mean, Andy? People don't care about this?
I got news for you. Most people, they just want to go home and be left alone. But
Because we don't have a community
Well-
stuff, like,
the comp plan is how much is your city going to change?
Yeah.
And what is that change going to look like?
Yeah,
That is the way that you're going to get them to go, well, oh, wait, what? Change?
yeah.
So just something to maybe use in some of their messaging and dialogue.
That's a great, because it's true. I mean,
It'd be a
I
great
work in
camp,
it.
you know, as you're building a camp, you're gonna have to have a campaign. You're gonna have to have an engagement campaign. Sorry, it sucks, but that's,
No, we know this.
I think all of it's gonna be really tough. I think the community engagement's gonna be the, one of the challenges.
Yeah.
Could summarize it in change with us.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on the billboard, we've had, the EDA's had some ongoing rotational come grow with us, and so maybe just kind of pivoting that some of we are changing. We are a community in transition, and we're gonna keep transitioning for a while, but what does that look like when, 20, 30 years from now, when there isn't any more in MXR, where it just got neighborhoods and festivals and businesses and trails and all the things.
All the things.
All the things. This is really helpful. I don't have anything else. I don't know, I will say, I intentionally didn't have a lot of presentation. I intentionally didn't want to necessarily even throw specific questions because I wanted to get off the cuff feedback from you. I know all of you are gonna go home and stay up all night long, not fall asleep, because you'll just be like thinking through these things, or something will come to you next Tuesday while you're pulling the toast out of the toaster. Feel free to reach out to Michael, Stephen, or I, as we continue to kind of scope this document out of moving forward with a plan. We want to hear at least any other additional thoughts you might have. There will be a time when we'll have to say thank you, but we're going to move forward now. But reach out if you think of something.
You said that the Parks, Lakes, and Trails Commission, or whatever, is putting together their plan. Will we have an opportunity to see that and perhaps comment on how it works or doesn't work with the things that we're faced with?
I think that they'll be making recommendation to the council to adopt their plan. I think that we can probably provide some comment on that before it goes to the council. I think then what ends up happening is, as we go to update the comp plan, we kind of go back to the community and say, okay, here's our 10-year master plan for parks and trails. What's the most what are the overarching principles that apply? You take from that plan. We're not creating new. We're pulling from that plan and putting it into this one. We're not going to be creating a separate Parks, Lakes, Trails chapter or a Parks and Recreation chapter that isn't aligned with the Parks plan.
Right, but if you're asking the community, what are the overarching goals or concerns or hopes, shouldn't that be done before?
They are doing
Okay.
public engagement
I'm sorry,
right
I
now.
apologize.
Yes, there is public engagement going right now. They had a survey, I think they had over 500 responses on their online survey, so there's been some engagement out there.
All right, move to item 9, updates. We'll start with our esteemed councilperson, Mr. Larson.
Oh, I would try to, but you can.
Nope, go ahead, you got it, since we directed it to you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I don't really have any updates really tonight. I would just like to mention that this evening from 5 to 6, we had a public speaking engagement regarding the marina, Tim's Marina, about doing some other expansion on like docks and things like that. I know that came before you some time ago, and there was a discussion on it. Now there's more discussion on some things that they would like to do. And the Forest Lake Association has been involved, and they've been active on their website and Facebook with things, and they drew a pretty good crowd tonight upstairs. So that'll be coming this direction here soon. So
2 weeks.
I anticipate a good-sized crowd and a lot of feedback. So put your boots on for that. Get ready for that one to come. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything. If you have anything of me, I can do my best to circumvent.
Questions for Jeff?
When is pothole season gonna end here?
Good luck, sir. I just think I know they're actively out doing stuff, but with so much different, like right now, we had the rain, then we had the freeze, and now we got the snow and everything else. So I know in the area where I live on North Shore, I've seen them out driving by, throwing some stuff in, but the road is like a terrible washboard. It's horrendous. It's hard to keep up, especially when they put it down and we get these little nuisance snowfalls and they go out and plow and they're tearing some of that stuff back up again. So it's a vicious circle, but I know Mr. Adams and his company are trying to do the best they can, but it has been a horrendous season anywhere in the metro, I think, has really struggled with this, so.
And I don't know how we get it across to folks, but 97 and 61 are not city streets, and our public works folks, one, are not really allowed to work on those, but boy, do they get blamed for it.
I also Broadway Avenue,
And, yeah,
and County Road 32, or 11th Avenue, and County Road 33. So some of the major kind of arterial roads in the community or skeleton roads aren't the cities, but we do try to work with those partners.
Yeah, with the county and stuff, I know that our public works in the county have tried to work hand in hand, especially on County 32 project, especially that's forthcoming, so there's a lot of communication and things between each other on that, so.
Any other questions, council
Florida's
person?
got hurricanes, we get potholes.
I'll take potholes any day of the year, twice on
You
Sunday.
should drive on North Shore Trail.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Abby?
Yeah, I have a few updates. Some of them you might have seen if you, I don't know if all people with the city email get our weekly updates. But last week we did learn that certain city planning, zoning, and land use applicants are subject to a fraud scam that's going on right now. So this does include direct email address emails to these applicants. Unfortunately, Commissioner Aplikowski, who was an applicant, was one person that was affected recently. These emails look like they are coming from, at least in this circumstance, was from Michael. We had one other one that had looked like it came from Chair Gerard in the past, that essentially are asking for you to wire transfer money for an application approval fee. We've done some outreach, public education. We're also going to be talking internally with administration and legal about how we, what we do is public, but how we can take some measures to maybe reduce exposure for our applicants by trying to limit personal information where possible. We've already done quite a bit of that over the years by pulling application forms out and all of that sort of stuff, but we're going to keep on just trying to see if we can fight the AI bots that the bad guys are creating. I did let you know about those MUSA implementation guidelines that have gone into effect. There's a few others. We haven't well vetted through what all of those are. Some of those do directly tie to their ability to better monitor the activities the city is having for those sewer connections that we talk about. And then also just wanted to let you know that last week the EDA updated just a 2026 work plan. Normally they do a few year work plan, but given the fact that the city council had wanted to do some strategic planning, they had been waiting for that. Instead, we decided let's just get a 1-year work plan in place. Included in that is some more planning on Headwaters 123, as well as an update to the Highway 61 corridor. So we did a corridor assessment in 2012, and so getting that updated in advance of some activities that the MnDOT will be doing in the next few years. And then also something that might just be interesting to you all is a vacant land analysis, looking at all the vacant land that the city owns and looking at opportunities of, you know, are there rightful uses? How did we acquire it? Are there ways we can put this back in the tax rolls or, you know, help encourage additional development? So you guys might be interested in some of that.
Any questions for Abby?
I would just say, everyone out there, be careful. I mean, it looked exactly like it was from the city.
It
had
was so good.
a PDF with the city letterhead and signatures and everything. So I was like, the next morning I got a bill for $3,500 for the city. I'm like, I was so mad I didn't click the link to pay, but it's real, so be careful.
Yes. And I will also say all of you have been issued a city email address. If you get those Metro IT notifications, you know, try to do those securities because they really help. Just those quick little things we sometimes can spot because they're getting better and better and better. I will say, other than the from email address, everything in that looked like it could have come from Michael.
It was planning@forestlake.gov was the email address that they had, and the only thing it was a wire transfer. That was the only thing that was like, what that was the question.
Thank God Commissioner Aplikowski got angry and reached out to yell. Because, yeah, that really got the ball rolling. And I was just showing Michael that he was in the newspaper because he was a part of the press release for what to look for. So now he's famous. Tell all your friends in Florida.
Well, that didn't take long. So then, well, we'll get to you soon, Michael. You have to hold on. And Abby, anything, nothing else?
No, thank you.
Stephen?
Oh, we had speaking of Tim's Marina, one leg of the stool for that proposed project was the environmental assessment worksheet that was prescribed. If you remember last year, they originally came to provide this through the concept plan. Through that discussion, we instructed them that they had to do an environmental assessment worksheet. So they provided that. They went through that. They provided it in December. We reviewed it. It was released for public comment for 30 days beginning in January, ending in the beginning of February. We went through all those comments and we worked with Tim's to take a lot of the comments to have them readdress. One thing about public participation, of all the EAWs that have been published in foreseeable future, Forest Lakes had the very most public comments, which says a lot about why I love this city, that they were so involved. It made it immensely more complicated to review with so many people that had feelings for this project. So we presented it to the council. They were the decision authority, really, for a declaration if we needed an environmental impact statement, which would be about a 2-year process and lots of money to analyze. Through our analysis, we found that the addition of these 2 docks wouldn't be a significant environmental impact to Forest Lake. That's not saying that there isn't an impact. There is an impact. It's just very difficult to say that it's significant, and we couldn't get to that point. That said, that document has now been released to the Environmental Quality Board, the EQB monitor. It will be published a week from Tuesday because of their published cycle. And after that, it's a 30-day appeal period on the document that's there. But I'll make sure that tomorrow morning when I get back in the office that I forward you all the link, especially you, Commissioner Young, so you can read it. That has that determination with all of the public comments that were related and our response to each comment that was had. We painstakingly, as a staff, reviewed each comment and addressed each one way above and beyond the typical noted that comes with a lot of these. We wanted to make sure that we were encouraging that participation from the public. especially with something that's so near and dear as we saw earlier. This is a very, this is an issue a lot of people care about. Especially the lake's health. That doesn't approve the project. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, we'll be having that discussion about if this project goes forward based on what's presented and what you hear through the public hearing. So be looking forward to that. That will be the conditional use permit amendment to allow the 2 docks as well as a variance on the parking. And Michael will be presenting that to this commission as well as supporting the public hearing.
And as someone who's done a bunch of assessments and reviewed another bunch, that you responded individually to each of the comments is enormous. I mean, it is enormously good. That does not happen typically. So, yes, usually people just say, noted.
No.
And no, but the individual responses, that's impressive.
I hope, again, encouraging that participation. We've been very transparent with a lot of the interest groups organizations that are interested in this project, making sure that they understand that what you saw at that neighborhood meeting was a lot to do with us reaching out to these organizations and making sure they knew that this was happening so that they could have these discussions as well as the public hearing. So I apologize in advance for if that meeting ends up being very long. But it has a lot to do with the work that we've done as a staff to make sure that the right people know that this is happening because the level of care is so high with especially this project.
Any other questions, Stephen? Michael?
Just echoing everyone else, I won't be asking anyone for a wire transfer. I do not want your money. So hopefully that won't happen again, and we won't be defrauded anymore. That's all I got.
Thank you. Andy?
Nothing, we went over it. Sorry I was late.
Susan?
Yep. Oh, yes, I do. Next Wednesday at noon, Gail, I forget her last name, our Met Council representative, will be doing a presentation to the Forest Lake Rotary. And we encourage guests, just let me know. It's at noon at the Legion. If you are interested in attending, we cover your lunch, and it should be interesting.
Susan, I'd like to attend.
Don?
Nothing.
Jesse?
Nothing at the time.
Corey? Nothing. Chair has nothing, so with that, Chair's looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second, it's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for your time. So, my wife may be interested in driving for 5.
Yep.
But we can't seem to find any information. That's all over the floor, so website couldn't find that.
I just crushed some White Castle. Don't trip over the bar I've set. Holy moly.
I got a website.
Yeah, it's an organization.
You gotta be able to find that.